Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2024. And that brings us to a title which has been designated by Criterion at 1237, spine number 1237. And this is a work which is described as being from the year 1979. And the name of the filmmaker is Masahiro Shinoda. And the name of the work is, in Japanese, this is Yashagaike, or as it's known in English, Demon Pond. This is the film, the amazing film. This is such an amazing film, which is from the filmmaker Masahiro Shinoda. And this is based upon a story by Kyoka Izumi. And this is also described as being from the year 1979. And among its really legendary cast, we have Tsutomu Yamazaki and Go Kato and Tamasaburo Bando, very famous kabuki actor and performer, as well as others in this cast that make up the participants, or among the participants in this world, this really bizarre world, this bizarre, over-the-top, unforgettable, frightening, dazzling world. Where the monsters, quote unquote, find all forms, from the type of Japanese folklore, quote unquote, monsters or yokai, all the way to the monsters within that are hiding in plain sight, whose forms are all too familiar in their human guise. This is the film which is, I think, spellbinding and mind-bending, and also a great special effects, tokusatsu special effects treat. And this is the work which is Demon Pond. Demon Pond enters into the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. Film by Masahiro Shinoda enters into the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, which is really wonderful. I mean, there is a work that Shinoda's career is really quite it's quite amazing and astounding. His filmography is quite immense and far-reaching over many years. As Dudley Andrew, the great Japanese film scholar and expert, who is being interviewed in one of the Criterion supplements for this, mentions his career, Shinoda's career is quite vast, and it can be said to be having many different chapters, from early on with a kind of strong, overt political bent, but also with an infusion of respect and kind of dissertation towards Japanese theater, bunraku, etc. So, and you see this in early works like a film which is known in English as Double Suicide, which also has connections with the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. But now we have yet another Shinoda film, and it's a really twisty, it's a great over-the-top, colorful, and as I say, colorful and quite wonderfully garish and grotesque, and fantastic and theatrical film, Demon Pond. And I was able to watch Demon Pond, excuse me, I was able to watch Demon Pond rather recently. I saw it on a Japanese release of this a couple years back, in fact. And it was the first time I had seen the film, and I was quite amazed by it. And I think perhaps I could be wrong, but it looks like maybe the restoration materials that were used as part of that Japanese release might be the same materials that are for this U.S. Criterion release. But in any event, it was a stunner when I first saw it, and it's still kind of a fresh watch for me. I've been a fan of Shinoda's works, and so whenever I've been able to watch Shinoda film, um, in my limited capacity, I've always tried to do so. But Demon Pond was one I'd never been able to see until fairly recently. And then uh, uh, a year or so later, one gets the news that Criterion is making its release this year. And so the excitement levels were quite high because I knew that I think this would find an audience amongst people here in North America and people who like to watch Criterion films. And this has a lot of those great quirky beats of late 1970s, early 1980s Japanese cinema, just over the top effects that have this great garish purposefully artificial theatrical quality to them. There's scenes where the horror mixes in with the goofy, and it has that lovely, almost amiable, buffoonish quality to it, which I think is also very much very serving very well with the overall context of the film, while also dealing with some really quite profound uses of folklore and legend that touch upon some deep-rooted and quite visceral scenes in the film about sort of sense of loyalty and a sense of devotion, love, and kind of revenge, and also this mob mentality that can turn quite ugly, quite ugly in terms of a miscarriage of vigilante justice and the like, while also keeping in mind this idea or the ideas of folklore, legend, and yokai and demons that emerge through nature and that take human form and have their own foibles and quibbles and maybe certain decisions that need to be made. All the while, the various factions, whether they be human or demon or somewhere in between, might be plotting with or against each other for some kind of ultimate showdown of sorts. So, Demon Pond, there's a lot to chew on, and there's a lot to soak in, and I think it makes for some real uh, jaw-dropping, mind-bending scenes indeed. And this is really stretching the boundaries in a lot of ways. It's really quite wonderful. So, if we were to try, I think, to focus on the plot or story structure of Demon Pond, I think we would focus on the setting. This is in Japan, early 20th century. It's around circa 1913, according to the Western calendar. And we have our character, or one of our main characters. This is the Tsutomu Yamazaki character. His name is Yamasawa, and he is on a train going into sort of a rural part of Japan. And here we have this interesting way in which he is entering into the sort of not just the rural natural realm of this part of Japan, but also this rural natural realm that is the location for the titular Demon Pond. And with respect to this Demon Pond and the community that is maybe geographically associated with or near this Demon Pond, there is some sort of averseness, or there's a bit of a cold streak there. But amongst the community members, Yamazawa is able to connect with an old acquaintance who is Akira, and so this is the Go Kato character, and we realize that Akira is together with Yuri, and they have a bond and relationship, and this is one of the sort of the beating hearts of the film. In terms of Akira and Yuri's relationship and how much devotion Akira seems to have towards her, and vice versa. But that is yet but one of many, many, many levels in the film, because we also have this the theme of the folklore legend associated with the demon pond itself, and how the folklore legend seems to be, well, it's involving this the ringing of a bell, this huge Buddhist bell, which needs to be rung a certain amount of times in order to appease a spirit that is said to be dwelling deep within the pond, or the small lake itself. And so without the ringing of the bell, there will be some kind of death and damnation that will confront the community, because the myth or legend, or the legend is that because of the ringing of the bell, this will prevent or ward off the demons housed in the lake to otherwise flood the town, thus causing death and carnage. So that's the conceit, that's the idea. And with this conceit, there are connected so many plot lines or through lines that are almost in this spaghetti-like pattern. They are weaving and bobbing in and out of each other, sometimes connecting, sometimes not connecting. But in any case, it's a fascinating mix of different sort of pools and scenes and scenarios that are somehow or another related to the central motif or central image. You can call it a metaphor, or you can call it a direct plot line. And you have to watch the film to find out. But it seems to be connected with Akira, the old friend. It seems to be connected with. It seems to be connected with. Yuri, the person that Akira is with, and the person that Akira has a great affection for, and uh, she seems to have Yuri seems to have this allure and reputation amongst the townfolk as well, in terms of her beauty, in terms of also sort of the ethereal nature of her beauty, and this is shown through a lot in a lot of the scenes involving. Involving the Bondo character, Yuri, who was portrayed by Bondo, and not only that, though, we have the way in which the friend from the outside seemingly maybe is on a mission to maybe save him from the inner goings on of the folklore and the legend that might have its own sense of danger as well. You also paint into the picture the human element. The community is seen to be oftentimes quite unsavory, and the characters seem to be very much maybe showing a slightly, or maybe not so slight, dark side to their own human characters. And so it always begs the question, well, who are the quote unquote monsters of the film as we watch the film Demon Pond? Are they the demons of Japanese folklore and yokai that might emerge from the dark shadows of the rural nature countryside, from the ponds and from the fish and from the dwelling deep below? Or are the monsters within the beating hearts of the human characters that we meet? And maybe it's the struggle between those two poles that forms one of the bases of the drama that Shinoda and company balanced this great film on, Demon Pond. I'm. It might seem like I'm just barely scratching the surface of this film, but I'm trying so hard to not overly go into detail, because I don't want to spoil this film for anyone who hasn't seen it, because it is a delight for the senses. This is a real delight for the senses. It is. There are some moments that are mind bending, but they're mind bending in the sense that we can see. I mean, it's a special effects heavy film, and there are moments where you can optical illusions, cinematic optical illusions, are abound. and they're on display, and you can see the seams, you can see the see-through parts, you can tell the effects language that's at play. So it might seem like you can see the stitch work in a manner of speaking, but that's okay. I think part of the film's fun is to notice these moments and to enjoy the special effects scenes, but also to as a lovely gentle reminder that I think Shinoda and company are really emphasizing the theatrical and the great way in which one can employ the artifice of the theatrical to make the point about the story. And there are a lot of moments where it's so obviously theatrical in terms of costumes that are worn, in terms of the makeup, but that's the point. That's the point, and it doesn't intrude upon the illusion that's unfolding, even or especially when the camera is coming up close. The illusion is never broken, which is one of the great genius points of Shinoda, is able to capture that mix between the cinema, capturing the theatrical in a very cinematic way, and he does so here, very, very much so. And I should say too that the performances are stellar, absolutely stellar. Bando, who is one of the famous kabuki and theater performers in Japan, very, very famous. I just very anecdotally, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to kabuki theater and kabuki actors, but kabuki uh, um, premier kabuki actors in Japan, even if one doesn't know kabuki theater, the chances are very high that you will have heard the names because they are very prominent on, say, mainstream television and main quote unquote uh, uh, TV entertainment, film entertainment, and the like. So, very, very common to hear famous names from the world of kabuki and the world of Japanese traditional theater. And so Bando is this, and I think Deli Andrew rightly mentions this as well, which is kind of superstar status. And the roles of Bando in this film, they are really, really great. I mean, it does speak to this aspect of kabuki, and it speaks to the aspect of performances and performers, and well, I'll mention a little bit more about it in the discussion with Dudley Andrew. But the performances by Bando are amazing, absolutely amazing. And Gokato is amazing. One of my and also one of my personal favorite actors is Tsutomu Yamazaki, and it's great always to see. Excuse me, Tsutomu Yamazaki in this film. He's kind of a moral compass. He's the outsider, and he's sort of the stand-in for us, the audience, in a manner of speaking. So we are with him a lot. He's not in all the scenes, so he's kind of he has it's he doesn't necessarily have sort of the omniscience, if you will, of the outsider standing in for us, the audience, which is also a very interesting point as well. He maybe is not in as much control as we might otherwise be comfortable with. So, which is a really great point, and it shines through. It's a great performance by Yamazaki. It's great indeed. Now, I must say again, the Shinoda film Demon Pond, it is a sight, a feast for the eyes and ears, the entire sensory function of viewing a film. I mean, they're all going to be stimulated when one watches Demon Pond, and there are ways in which, as I say, it can dazzle and delight. If one has, for instance, an understanding of Japanese folklore and Japanese theater, kabuki, no theater, or whether it's a deep knowledge, or Japanese literature, or theater, whether it's deep knowledge or maybe a casual knowledge, or maybe even if it's no knowledge at all, that's okay. That's absolutely okay. I think one can enjoy this film immensely on any level one finds oneself. If you're coming to this world of, say, Japanese theater fresh and without any knowledge base of theatrical points or points of literature, that's fine. I think you're getting it so much out of it. And I would dare say too that a lot of the surprises that could be said to be in store for that are embedded in this film could be said to be very much there, in particular for those who might not necessarily have maybe a background in Japanese literature, for instance. So, in other words, there might be even more wonderful surprises in store for those who might be in that position. So, I encourage you, no matter where you find yourself in terms of your station and in your own cinema viewing experience, no matter where you find yourself. Uh, Give this film a try if you haven't. It is really mind blowing, and there are scenes that can get under the skin. There are scenes that, and I love too how it operates as a it operates like everything is organically connected, but at the same time each part is its own part, and it's also distinguished visually as well. I mean, there's some scenes that are shot in one way, kind of naturalistic way, and there are other scenes that are shot in a really over the top spectacle type of way, and so you get this great mixture of things. Plus, you have the build up to what could be said to be this. I mean, it's also. I mean, I mentioned it's a horror film. It's a folklore legend film. It's a Japanese theater piece. It's a no piece. It's a Japanese no piece. It's a Japanese kabuki piece. It's a Shinoda, maybe a rural countryside film of Japan. It's a it's a historical drama. It's also a disaster movie. So it's a ghost story. I mean, it's a love story. Oh my goodness! It's like everything is packed in there. And again, it's a feast for the senses all around. So this is a very, very welcome addition, I think, to the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. And I love this film so much. I hope as many people get a chance to see it as possible. There's a different Japanese filmmaker, Obayashi, who made a film which is called Hausu. I dare say anyone who likes the film Hausu, I think you really get a kick out of Demon Pond. There's an interesting vibe to it that has maybe a streak of similarity or two or more. But in any event, Demon Pond at the same time is its own film. So give it a chance if you haven't had a chance. If you haven't yet done so, please, please, it's a mind-bending, one of a kind experience in many ways. So please check it out. And you have this wonderful Criterion Collection release to provide that opportunity should you choose. So, and I certainly hope you do, my dear friends. This is a good one, a great one indeed. This is the film which is Demon Pond. The Criterion Collection has released this film, Demon Pond, courtesy of this 4K UHD plus Blu-ray combo edition. This is at, once again, spine number 1237, and the version that I have here is that, yes, the combo edition, so it has the 4K UHD disc, which is what I have in the player right now, and then also a separate Blu-ray disc, which also has the film, but also with supplements. And we'll talk about the supplements a little bit later in this video, but before we do, let me now refer to the fold-out insert, which I've removed prior to starting this video taping. The reason why I've done so now is to talk about the master, and it says notes about the master, and I quote, Demon Pond is presented in the aspect ratio of 1.85 to 1, supervised and approved by director Masahiro Shinoda and actor Tamasaburo Bando. This 4K restoration was undertaken by Shochiku at Imagica Entertainment Media Services Inc. from the 35mm original camera negative. The original monaural soundtrack was remastered from the 35mm original soundtrack negative by Shochiku Media War X Inc. So, it's interesting that Shinoda and Bando were noted as supervised in improving the restoration. So that's it. We'll speak about Bando a little bit when you talk about the supplements. Very fascinating. But this, how should I explain? I wouldn't call this restoration. It's not a restoration, I think, where it's the purpose. I mean, my hunch is it's not aiming to uh, make all the scenes all quote unquote cleaned up and remove all the spots and specks and scratches, etc. Because in fact, I think part of the great charm of this film, Demon Pine, at least for me, and also it's in keeping with this kind of style, if you will, from sort of Japanese cinema from the 1970s and 80s, at least from my perspective. It has, there's uh, um, I think it, it has to, well, let me try to rephrase, which is there are moments in the film where you can still see the spots. You can still see a little bit of the specks, and you can still see the little maybe pieces of white here and there. Not all the time, but every now and again. But I don't. I want to encourage or suggest that it it didn't at all take away from my experience with watching the film. I wasn't looking for a quote unquote clean, pristine film. I was looking for a film that had the blemishes and the film that had the little bits here and there. And the reason was is because the um, the I mean one of the reasons is that the film worked so beautifully anyway, and those quote unquote blemishes do not in any way I think detract. And also I think they're meant to be there in a certain sense because if one thinks about the special effects of the film, and there's so many special effects, but they are from an age in cinema from the mid to late 1970s, where I think they're not talking about clean lines of, say, digital effects that perhaps we might be used to in 2024 or films, etc., that employ a lot of computer-based special effects. Uh, with a film like Demon Pond, I think the one of the great points of it, the charming points, is to see the lines and to see the join and to see the blemishes, because it's a kind of reminder of the great artwork that went into the special effects that were employed in the special effects and had a great, lovely, handmade quality to them that is captured really nicely in that type of respect for the presentation. And also, I think uh, there is a way in which this is again a reminder of the theatrical quality. And Dudley Andrew really greatly mentions how Shinoda, one of his points, it seems, would have been, or it suggested, is to really adhere to a type of capturing Japanese theater on film or in cinema. And there's a way that a lot of the camera work might be said to be very cinematic and gliding through. Very undoubtedly, it's quite effective in that way. But there's also this idea of a kind of flatness, which is also very important, and not just a flatness, but also capturing the imperfection. Seeing the lines in the dirt and seeing the bits there, because that I think makes the feeling closer in a manner of speaking, or it gives a sense of a kind of a screen, or a sense of a gauze, or a curtain, if you will. So I really appreciate and admire that. So it took nothing away, absolutely nothing away from my viewing experience. And in fact, I would say that the way that type of feeling of the film was preserved would suggest to me that not only did it not take away anything from me, it in fact enhanced, I could say it enhanced the experience for me, because I think it's very much in keeping with this theatrical quality, and also the adherence to this type of wonderful uh, and perhaps from a comparative perspective point of view, maybe old school special effects making. So it really, in a grand way, in a wonderfully evocative and very respectful way. So kudos for this presentation from Shochiku and the like. I very much enjoyed it. And now I have the Blu-ray in the machine. I've taken out the 4K disc and I've put in the Blu-ray. I should point out that you have this great menu image, Demon Pond, with the image of the fish or the carp. Also, I have the volume down, so I've purposely turned down the volume so you can't hear it. But there's also the music excerpts from the score. I should have mentioned the Isao Tomita's score. It is really Tomita is one of my favorite musicians. So this is a real cool score. A really really cool score. And I love the sounds of this. Is it synthesizer sound that is very much eerie and spooky and beautiful and hypnotic. And there are sometimes passages too from European classical music as well. So lovely score, and it just enhances the mood just perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So, but in any event, going back to the Blu-ray, I have the Blu-ray here because, as I mentioned before, if you're going to turn to the supplements, you won't find the supplements on the 4K disc. You're going to have to go to the Blu-ray disc. And so I have the Blu-ray disc in the player. And once again, I apologize for my bad presentation here. I'm just sitting here at my table with this book stand and the monitor and back. I apologize. You know, my presentation skills are very lacking. They always have been. But I'm doing my very best. But if you can't see it, I apologize. But let me just show you what it says here. So it says supplements. I press it, and we have two supplements. Dudley Andrew and a deluge of special effects. So what are these? Let's press Dudley Andrew's name here. And it says, and I quote, "In the following interview recorded by the Criterion Collection in 2024, film scholar Dudley Andrew discusses Kyoka Izumi's 1913 play Demon Pond and director Masahiro Shinoda's relationship with the theater." So Dudley Andrew, yes, Dudley Andrews' work here. It's great. I should point out that a great admirer of Dudley Andrew, huge scholar in this field. Also Japanese cinema, also French cinema, and his expertise in Japanese cinema are vast and very well spoken. I had the great honor of meeting Dudley Andrew when I was in college, and he was a professor where I went to college. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to take any of his classes directly, but I did meet him on occasion. A very friendly gentleman, and soft-spoken. And when I saw this video discussion, he hasn't aged. He looks the same, so he's great. He's just and the same tone of voice is there, and the like. So well done. It's wonderful to see. Dudley Andrew looks really wonderful, and to hear his comments here on Demon Pond are great. So this is called The Twilight World, the Dudley Andrew on Demon Pond. It's approximately 18 minutes. And Dudley Andrew is an expert on Japanese cinema and Japanese literature and theater. He knows his stuff. And so whenever he says something about Japanese cinema, I'm going to stop and listen, because I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of great stuff. And this is a great example of this. This is great. This is really great. He speaks about the first part. He speaks about Shinoda, Masahiro Shinoda, and he speaks about the way in which the career of Shinoda, it can be quite vast, and it's a very dense career, and maybe highlighted a lot by a lot of his early works dealing very much with political thrusts, and then also entries into theater, which also I think arguably had their own political thrusts, and Double Suicide is from that he mentions almost immediately. But then he also mentions how his career, Shinoda's career, turned into maybe trying to explore different ways of cinematic expression, and maybe enhancing the artificiality aspect of capturing theater on cinema. And he likens this maybe transformative aspect of his career to that of, say, Pier Paolo Pasolini or Jean-Luc Godard. or Oshima, etc. So and that's quite fascinating. It's this idea that Shinoda, his career is incredibly vast, and his films, depending on the time that they were, I mean, they could be said to be very, very different from each other. So that in itself is quite exciting. So and but also all the while, as Dudley Andrew reminds us, that he was very much interested in theater, Japanese theater, bunraku theater. He mentions uh, association with or double suicide and Chikamatsu, and also his connections with other filmmakers like Mizoguchi, etc. And also his Shinoda's maybe affection for Japanese theater, bunraku, kabuki, no theater, etc. Might stem from the fact, as Dudley Andrew suggests, might stem from the fact that, for instance, there was a need maybe to, as I say, find different cinematic expressions as his career was developing from the 60s into the 70s. And then also maybe as a means of capturing a kind of an essence of Japaneseness, for a lack of a better phrase. And Dudley Andrew, I think, surmises or posits that one of the reasons this may have occurred is because of sort of the Americanization of Japanese society post World War II, and sort of the general embrace writ large of American capitalism, and maybe this move by Shinoda to really embrace Japanese theater with all of its traditional Japanese folklore storytelling aspects might have been a move to perhaps preserve a sense of a kind of Japanese identity in the midst of an ever-growing, say, Japanese economy that was based upon an American type of a model of American capitalist consumerism. So this is, I think, a very astute and quite a great observation from Dudley Andrew. And then it goes into a discussion of some other examples of this type of work in Shinoda's career, Himika or Orin, or the Ballad of Orin, etc. And then, too, talking about Kyoka Izumi. And the type of writer and the type of author and literary figure Izumi was, and then how Izumi was trying to essentially, he was telling stories, maybe for instance, also literature and the theater, kabuki plays, but also placing them in a type of modern setting. And so this is a perfect blend or perfect ground for the mix between folklore and theater on the one hand and a type of naturalism on the other. I mean, Dudley Andrew mentions the phrase anti-naturalism when describing Demon Pond here, and I think that's very apropos. But he also gives room for the point that there are places in Demon Pond that are, I think, quite reasonably described as being on the other end of the spectrum, namely of the naturalism bent. And so there are moments, for instance, with the town folk or the community that is among the people, as it were. And then there are other moments that are undoubtedly of when you get into the pond and the demons and the whole council of what to do about the curse and to betray the curse or not betray the curse, etc. The blight of humanity, etc. Those scenes involved in a really theatrical setting, like this huge hall or something. So with all the effects to boot. So there seems to be this great mix between naturalism on the one hand and sort of the anti-natural instinct of the over-the-top theatrical quality on the other, which is very much infused with the Japanese traditional folklore setting. And then too, he also, Dudley Andrew mentions the some really great insights about sort of sociological studies that were done. Very famous Japanese sociologists who were at the time, early part of the 20th century, were trying to gather stories in the rural countryside about common folklore legends, and then make them more widely known to the public. And so there was this heavy emphasis on sort of the preservation of folklore legends, and then also the aspect of Demon Pond, which could be said to be uh, uh, maybe a commentary critique about human nature and mob violence and a type of misplaced vigilante justice mentality. This could be said to be maybe a veiled critique or commentary on a type of darkening mood of Japan as it progressed through the years into what would end up being the wars, the Pacific War, World War II. And so, this type of maybe political commentary, even as I mean, the film Demon Pond in this realm actually does involve a political figure, in fact. So, I think the idea of Tsunoda being ever the cinematic providing the cinematic commentary on certain aspects of the Japanese political scene, I think is a comment or an observation by Deleandro, which is another remarkable one. So, and then too, Deleandro mentions the performances, and he does mention Bando. This is very important. Bando. A very, very famous kabuki actor, incredibly famous. He's a superstar, so much so that I think Deleandro mentioned that Bando needed to. Bando had a lot of sway and a lot of influence, and so whatever Bando said, it kind of went his way, according to what Leandro says here. So he kind of required a lot of takes. I mean, I would. I wonder why Bando is also mentioned, by the way, in terms of being one of the people who supervised and approved the 4K restoration. And my hunch is, and I have nothing to prove this. My hunch is maybe it's still that type of thing about hit the sway that he has even now, and the influence that he has even now. Really, really popular, very famous, and so. And a lot had to do with Bando and how Bando looked, because Bando, as a theater performer, wasn't necessarily used to being performing on screen in a film where you had possible close-ups that you wouldn't have had in the theater, and so there are moments where you can see Bondo's character or one of his characters crying, and this is something that right, this is part of the challenge of translating his kabuki instincts to a cinematic actor performance or performances. I mean, it's really quite astonishing, his performance, and also this is also a reflection of kabuki actors, male actors who perform female roles in certain works of theater, kabuki theater, or Japanese theater. And this is a part of Japanese theater that is related to how the theater was affected by the Tokugawa period of Japanese history, and then how this has been carried over into sort of modern day performances, and so how Bando is very much known for this, and but to see his performances on screen, I mean, it brought a lot of baggage. So people who knew Bando were expecting a lot, and apparently, according to Dudley Andrews, a great critical success in terms of the reaction to Bondo's performances. It was really well received from the circles of audience members who knew of his kabuki background and thus knew what was going on when they saw the performances actually shown on screen. But for those Western audiences who may not necessarily have realized, Bondo and the characters that he was portraying on screen, they would have been surprised, according to Dudley Andrew. And there was also this way in which sexuality is shown in certain key scenes of the film Demon Pond, and it's Dudley Andrew points to how Shinoda is showing this in a way that's quite progressive. So it's another great aspect of the Dudley Andrew commentary here, and also the way in which this film seems to be captured in a moment of everlasting twilight, which I never thought about before, but it's really quite fascinating. And to Debussy and Mussorgsky are two quotations from Western classical music that are found in the Tomita score. So that's great. And also, Dudley Andrew takes the opportunity, I think very astutely so, to mention how this film is therefore sort of a mixture of different blends, a type of Moog synthesizer that's very, very modern, but it's also meant to evoke a type of Japanese traditional folklore and theater that also has mixes of West or cues from Western classical music. So it's wonderfully all over the place. So it's great, absolutely great. So this is the Dudley Andrew discussion. It's fantastic. Please check it out. It's approximately 18 minutes, and it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. That's the Dudley Andrew discussion. And then we have a deluge of special effects, and it's approximately, I think, 12 minutes. This is author Fabien Moreau explores the career of special effects artist Nobuo Yajima and details his work on Demon Pond. This is in, I think it's the French language, so it's going to be subtitled. This is really great. Moreau talks about Yajima and his career as a special effects artist in the first part of this, or the first third of this, and mentioning, for instance, among other things, he created the animated logo for Shochiku. Also, he had a great admiration for the John Ford film The Hurricane, working for Toei, and there's a very famous what's known as a special effects film or special effects a story called Tokusatsu, and how he worked a lot with Tokusatsu films and also television series as well that involved a lot of special effects and monsters and the like, and also a message. There's a famous film, for instance, which has the English title "Message from Space" as well. Also dealing with other films that have to do with like five rangers and yokai, etc. So, and then he goes into a great discussion, a detailed analysis of the special effects that are employed in certain scenes of Demon Pond. And as I say, Demon Pond is a special effects film, and I love the inclusion of this because this is a reminder of, among other things, Demon Pond is a horror film, it's a folklore film, it's a Japanese mythology film, it's a theatrical film, it's a kabuki film, it's a no theater film. It's also a tokusatsu film. That is, it's a special effects film. So, tokusatsu is also used in describing films like, say, Godzilla films, monster movies of that sort. So this is a similar type of feel in that very much special effects driven in a lot of key sequences. So, and I'm glad that the inclusion of this is a great reminder of this. Among the many things one can call Demon Pond, one can also call it a tokusatsu film. So, yeah, well done for including this. It's approximately 12 minutes, I think, so please check it out if you can. And that's it as far as the supplements go. I would have loved to have seen more supplements. I don't think there's a commentary track or anything as well, so too bad. I would have loved to have seen more, much more. But oh well, c'est la vie. And I say that also with a lot of respect for what we do have, because what we have is really, really excellent. So please check it out if you can. It's really worthwhile. Again, I would have loved to have seen more, but again, what we do have already is really wonderful. So please check it out if you can. And so let me now round out our conversation by turning to some aspects of the physical media release. I just want to point out this great cover art design. This is, I think, they meant to suggest a key moment, or one of the key moments in the film involving, one of the key moments in the film. Very, very magical moment. It's quite awesome. And so this is a great rendition, I think. Art director Sarah Habibi, Eric Skillman. Illustrator Yuko Shimizu. Designer Eric Skillman. Art production coordinator William Braze. Print production artist Craig Phillips. Art assistant Julie Sussman. I love this. And I just love also the font. Demon Pond. That font. It's great. There's a type of way in which the Japanese characters of the title in Japanese are written when you watch the opening credits of it, and I love how this type of handwritten aspect of the character writing is similarly suggested in the way in which the words demon and pond are appearing in English. It's really great, really, really wonderful. So there's that. Also, I want to say there's the front. Oh, sorry about that's bad. The glare. Apologize. That looks a bit better. That's the front, and then the back right there. Look at that. The black and the red. It's quite cool. Also, by the way, you can see the black and the red here. The disc with the red Demon Pond is the 4K disc. The disc with the gray Demon Pond is the Blu-ray disc. It's very cool. And then also we have the fold out, and I mentioned I'm not a fan of the fold out. I much rather prefer to have seen the stable booklet, but oh well, c'est la vie. We also have a carryover, more of the great artwork here on some of the pages, plus some other information about the release itself. And then we have the Michael Atkinson, Here Comes the Flood essay. This is great essay, and talks a bit about Shinoda, and sort of his trajectory in the context of what one might call the Japanese New Wave from the 1960s, and entering into his career into the 70s and 80s. And of course, part of that is a film like Demon Pond. So this is a great addition to what we've already heard quite greatly already from people like Dudley Andrews. So this is another. What we have in terms of the supplements is really great, but if one is seeking yet more information, I think there's no better place to turn next than going to the Atkinson essay, Here Comes the Flood. So wonderful edition. Once again, my strong suggestion is to watch the film first and then to read the great essay, Here Comes the Flood, when you can. So it'll be found in the insert, which I will put back like so into the plastic case, and then snap it shut, and then there you have it. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth with regard to the Criterion release of Demon Pond. It's a great film, really great film. Off the wall stuff happens. There are a lot of moments of great connection and betrayal, and also devotion and loyalty. A lot of things dazzling, mysterious, sometimes inscrutable, sometimes baffling, and all the while mysterious and beautiful. This is a real great film, Shinoda film, so please check it out if you can. This is the work which is Demon Pond. Alright, my dear friends, so that's it for now, and so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including Demon Pond, including other films by Shinoda, including other films in the Criterion Collection, and beyond. Alright, my dear friends, so until the next video, please, please be happy and healthy and well, and please stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.